Hello, welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to do the first video of my 500 subscriber Q&A. So I put out a video last week asking for questions, and I got some absolutely fantastic responses to that video, some great questions. And so I'm going to do the first video today. I'm thinking it's going to be 2 videos just because of the amount of questions that I did receive on that video. And so I'm just going to gauge that by reading through and answering for about 20 minutes. And then at the end of 20 minutes, I will see if we need another video or if I had covered everything by then. So I just have the questions pulled up on my iPad here, just reading from the actual video feed in the YouTube app. I decided not to port anything over to Google Docs or anything like that, so I'm just going to read them. I did scroll down to the bottom, and so hopefully I will read them in order that they were posted. That's not really, I don't really need to do that, but I sort of like to read them in order. And so I'll just read down through these for about 20 minutes and see how far I make it. I think it might fit in one video, maybe 2, I'm not really sure. And so we'll just see. Before I get started though, I just want to say again, thank you so much guys for your fantastic questions that you all sent in. I really appreciate it. I really enjoy doing these Q&As, and it literally would not be possible without you sending in questions. And so thank you so much, I really appreciate it. So the first question is from Rafael Ramos, who says, hi, I'm using your channel to learn about books and English. Thanks so much. I hope you grow up more and more. Do you have Instagram? Congratulations from Brazil. Thank you so much, Rafael. I really appreciate that. And that's so cool that you're using my channel to learn English. I really hope that I am speaking properly for you to learn from. I don't want to ingrain any mistakes in you. But that means a lot. Thank you so much. I am not on Instagram. I am not on any social media platforms other than YouTube and Goodreads, if Goodreads is considered a social media platform. I'm not sure if it is. I kind of consider it social media just because it does have a messaging feature and it does have likes and comments. But I am not on Instagram, no. Let's see, the next question is from Walter Rios, who says, congrats. One question, have you read any Sally Rooney? Thanks. Thank you, Walter. No, I have not read any Sally Rooney, actually. I have heard a lot about Sally Rooney. I've watched a lot of booktube videos about her different books. I've talked to some of my reader friends about Sally Rooney, but I myself have never read any, no. Literary Love says, congratulations, a new subscriber sent here from Mark at Book Time with Elvis. Oh, wonderful. Thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Let's see. The next question is from Reading Off Grid. Congratulations on 500. My question is, what made you start a booktube channel? Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I think my reasoning for wanting to start a booktube channel is probably pretty standard to most other booktubers. And that is just, I wanted a venue to share my love of books, share my love of reading, and have a way to talk about it. Also, I wanted a way to sort of improve my own reading, to improve my own reading life. And I find that by making videos and having sort of having to read in order to have content to then film, it really pushes me to read more widely, and it pushes me to read to read more focused and to pay more attention to what I'm reading, and to sort of get into the habit of reading critically, because I know that I'm going to be sitting down and talking about the books that I'm reading, and I want to be able to sit down and talk about them in a coherent way, in a helpful way for those who haven't read the book, and to be able to carry on a proper conversation about the books. And so I wanted to have a way to do that, and I decided that booktube was going to be the best way for me. I loved watching it. I think I watched booktube for maybe 3 or 4 years before I even started. I never commented. I never interacted really. I was just very much a viewer Um, and then I just decided that it was a good time. It was during COVID. It was, let's see, February, I believe, when I started. So kind of the tail end of COVID, at least for where I live right now. And so I thought the timing of it just made sense. And I just wanted a place to talk about books, really. The next question is from Tom at Tom LA Books. Congrats. My question is, what is your favorite Italian classic, if you have one? And if you don't, which one would you like to read? And so I'm not sure if my answer is going to be an Italian classic or not, but the Cloven Viscount by Italo Calvino is one of my favorite Italian novels. I'm not sure if that is counted as an Italian classic or not, but all of Calvino's work I absolutely love. And so if that's considered an Italian classic, then that will be my answer. And if that is not, then I will probably say Dante's Divine Comedy would be my favorite Italian classic. The next question is from Kedivon Reeds. Congrats. I know you tend to gravitate towards 19th and 18th century lit, but what are some of your favorite modern classics or contemporary literature that you loved so much you could envision it becoming a classic? So I pulled 2 books off of my shelf for this. I don't read a whole lot of modern literature or contemporary literature. I mean, as she said in her comment, I tend to gravitate towards 19th and 18th century literature, whether it's American, British, or Russian. But I pulled 2 contemporary. They're actually both contemporary British novels that I really, really loved, and at least for me, I could see them becoming classics. I'm not sure what the rest of the reading world would say, but those 2 for me would be The Sense of an Ending by Julian Barnes. I read this, I think maybe 4 or 5 months ago, something like that, and I absolutely loved it. It's a really quick read. I read it in one sitting, but the story is incredible. The characters, the setting, the writing. There was just really a magic to it that pulled me in, and I read it twice. I read it in one sitting, I believe on a Saturday afternoon, just within a matter of hours, and then upon finishing it, I immediately started over and read it again through until the next day, and I absolutely loved it. So this would be one for me that I envision as sort of becoming a classic. I'm not sure what the rest of the reading world might say, but it would hold true for me. And then the other one would be The Children Act by Ian McEwan. And this is one that I read, I believe I read this last year, actually. I mean, it's sort of the same story. I had this one going on ebook as well as sort of following along with the physical book when I was not working. And it was sort of the same story of me reading it, finishing it once, and then reading / listening to it again a second time, just because it was fantastic. It also helped that the audiobook was narrated by Emma Thompson, which would make a phone book enjoyable. But this story, the story itself is incredibly emotional, incredibly gripping, and the characters and just the humanity, the human struggle depicted, and just the humanity depicted in this is absolutely beautiful, and I love it. And I believe that was the end of her question. Yes. So the next question is from Brandon at Brandon's Bookshelf, and he says, "Congrats, man! If you could give everyone on Earth one book, what would it be?" So thank you, Brandon. I really appreciate it. And that is an incredible question. That's a really good question. If I could give everyone on Earth one book, what would it be? There are a lot of books that I would want to give to people. I think right now I would have to say East of Eden by John Steinbeck. It's by far my current favorite novel that I have read. I've read it I think I just finished either my third or fourth time reading it. I read it for the first time a couple of years ago, and there was something about it that every time you reread it, there's a new quality that you pick up on. At least for me, every time I have read it, I have come away with a completely different reaction, a completely different set of emotions and feelings than any of the other times that I read it. And even though you know the story after you read it once, there is still something about it. There's a quality about it that I feel it is endlessly rereadable, and it's never tiring because of the depth of the story, of sort of spanning generations. I think allows for so much room to breathe when you're in the story, so you never feel like you are stuck in the same story. At least for me, it feels that way every time I reread it. It feels like I am in a new environment. I'm in a new place, even though I know what's going on. I know the characters, I know the ending, but there's just a quality about it that every time I read it, I feel like I'm in it for the first time and with a fresh perspective. And I think that the story, the characters, the growth, the human experience, and the way that it is depicted in East of Eden, I think is endlessly relatable to everyone. And so I would, for now, I would have to say East of Eden by John Steinbeck for a book, if I could give one book to everyone in the world. The next question is from Paul. Congratulations. If you could only take one book with you onto a desert island, which book would you choose? I'd choose East of Eden by John Steinbeck. Oh, no way. That's funny. What a coincidence. Well, thank you so much, Paul. Honestly, I would agree with you. East of Eden. After that last question and me talking about East of Eden, that's funny that came up. But yeah, I would actually agree with you, Paul. I think I would take East of Eden as well. For the reason I mentioned in answering Brandon's question. But if I would also take, if I had to just take one, I think I might take Don Quixote by Cervantes as well. I talked about it a little in one of my other Q&A videos, I think. It's an absolute wonderful novel, and it provides so much. It has little bits of every genre. It has a little humor, it has a little romance, it has a little adventure. It's a classic. It has depth. It's a book that you certainly do have to think. It's not just an autopilot read. And I think it provides so much that I could reread that as well. Sort of with similar reasoning to East of Eden. And sort of every time you reread it, it's something new, and it stays fresh, and it stays snappy, and it stays very energetic. And I've only read it twice. I've only read it twice through. And so I can't really speak too much on, multiple rereads. But for 2 rereads, it stays incredibly fresh and really enjoyable. Let's see. The next question is from Mex Libris, who has a couple of questions. Congrats, well deserved. Thank you so much. And here are some questions to choose from. Well, I'll read through them all and answer as many as I can. His first question is, which book could be your most recommended one? Which book could be your most recommended? So I think the question is, which book could be the one that I have recommended the most? At least I will answer it that way. The book that I have recommended the most. That's an interesting one. Because it would have to depend on genre. Because I recommend a lot of nonfiction to people. I don't recommend a whole lot of fiction, of classics to people, just because I'm still myself sort of reading through everything for the first time. So usually I'm the one who is receiving a recommendation. And so I'm honestly, I'm not sure for that. So I'm just going to move on to question number 2, which is my earliest reading memory. So actually, my earliest reading memories are not positive about reading. When I was learning to read when I was young and first learning to read and write, I had pretty severe dyslexia, and so reading was an absolute nightmare for me. So my earliest reading memories are sort of struggling, typically in tears, trying to read a paragraph, trying to piece together a single word, and just struggling and absolutely hating it. And so my earliest reading memories aren't really positive for reading. But then when I was around 11, 12, 13 years old is when reading really started clicking in for me. And those memories are all very positive, because those are the first times that I remember feeling free enough to be able to open a book and read it alone and be able to understand what I was reading, and to be able to follow along with what was being written. Not only being able to read the words, but being able to understand the context and being able to understand what the words were saying. Because for a long time I was able to sort of pick apart words, but it was the comprehension. It was the, well, what is this sentence saying? I can read the individual word, but I don't know what I'm reading. And so when all of that lined up for me, and when I was able to read but also comprehend, and I felt strong enough and confident that I could do that alone, that feeling of being able to pick up any book and start to read it and be able to know what you were reading was such an exciting feeling. And so those are what I attribute my early positive reading memories with. My very earliest reading memories are definitely not positive towards reading. Now looking back on them, I can sort of look at them and say, I'm glad that I stuck with it to get to where I am now. But at the time, in the moment, I was not happy. It was definitely a struggle. Let's see. The third question is, what's the last unexpected find you bought? That book you had previously never heard of before, but ended up captivating you in the bookstore. And that's a great question as well, and I'm trying to think, because as of late, all of the books that I have bought have all been researched ahead of time and then purchased. I haven't had sort of an unexpected find, like he's asking in this question, yet. I always love when that happens, when you sort of walk into a bookstore and you just see something on a shelf across the way, and you go and you buy it and you read it and you don't really know anything about it, but it sort of just clicks for you and everything lines up and it turns into this beautiful experience. I love when that happens. It hasn't happened this year yet. There's still time in the year for that to happen, and I definitely hope that it does. His fourth question is favorite type of cheese. That is a very interesting question, and honestly, I'm not sure. I don't eat a whole lot of cheese, and so I'm not sure if I have a favorite. But very interesting question. Thank you. And then question 5 is, what's been the best thing that happened to you this week? Well, it is Monday. The week is very fresh. It is noon on a Monday. And so I would say the best thing that has happened to me so far this week is probably just being able to sit down and film this video. All right, so those are his questions. Thank you so much. Those were fantastic. The next question is from Guarev Dirio, and I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Dear Micah, congratulations on hitting 500 subscribers. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much. My questions are, number 1, have you read any books written by Brazilian or Indian authors? Question 2, who are some of your favorite booktubers? Question 3, I want to get into Russian literature as well, but I don't know where to start. What would be your recommendation? So to answer your first question, I have not read any Brazilian or Indian authors, actually. I would love to read some, but I don't really know where to start. So if you have any recommendations for Brazilian and Indian authors, please let me know in the comments down below, and I will pick up a couple copies of them. To answer question number 2, who are some of my favorite booktubers? Honestly, I love everyone. I love everyone here on BookTube. I think that each channel is really special because while we are all talking for the most part about similar or the same books, just the fresh perspectives you get from so many different people. And so honestly, I'm not even sure if I could name individual booktubers just because I watch so many, and I really love the diversity that is on BookTube, and I love being able to have so many different channels. So really, I don't want to cop out of this answer, but my answer truthfully is everyone. Everyone on BookTube, I think, is fantastic, because just the effort that goes into doing a BookTube channel, you know, before I had my own channel, I really didn't realize how much work it is until I started doing my own. And I don't even put that much work into my videos. I don't edit, I don't do anything like that. I just sit down and film, and then I watch videos where they have excellent editing, and cards are on the screen, and everything is so tight and professional, and really just the amount of effort that people put into their channels, I think gives is amazing. And so I love everyone here on BookTube just because they're sharing their passion, and they're working so hard to make such excellent content as well, and it really shows through. And so I love everyone for that. And to answer your third question, and I did realize that we passed the 20-minute mark, so I will answer this last question, and then I will stop it there, and then I will pick it up in a second video. But to answer your final question, I want to get into Russian literature as well, but I don't know where to start. What would be your recommendation? If you're wanting to start, what I did when I first started reading Russian literature earlier this year is I started with short stories first before I even looked at the longer novels, because the sort of Russian classics that you think of, Anna Karenina, War and Peace, the Brothers Karamazov, Crime and Punishment, they're all incredibly long books, and they can be somewhat daunting. So I would recommend that you start with short stories first. I would say find some Chekhov short stories, either an edition, just a Chekhov. I have the portable Chekhov from Viking, I believe, that is excellent. But also, if you just get online, the Gutenberg Project has all of Chekhov's translated short stories. So I would recommend reading some of his short stories, as well as some of Alexander Pushkin's short stories, and Leo Tolstoy. For Tolstoy, I would recommend The Death of Ivan Ilyich. If you want even shorter, How Much Land Does a Man Need is interesting. It's sort of a moralistic parable. But I would recommend starting with short stories, and with Chekhov's short stories particularly, because they are a little bit lighter. Occasionally, there's still some dark tones to them, but he's quite easy to read. He's quite easy to sort of follow along with, and his stories they're really enjoyable to read, and they don't take very long, and they're not very intimidating. So that's definitely where I would recommend that you start. So I'm going to end this video here, and then I'm going to start another video answering the rest of the questions. So I will be right back.